Is one of the world's greatest jugglers. Tonight, he's going to try something brand new. Juggling underwater. Watch. We'll be seeing more astounding feats of juggling later, along with these incredible stories. Stuntman Rio Raiders will attempt the world's first speedboat run through a floating tunnel of fire.
I'm Fran's argument. People with broken bones that won't heal now have hope. A medical breakthrough that can actually stimulate bone growth thanks to a device implanted directly in the body.
I'm Kathy Lee Crosby. An accident involving a gas tank leads to destruction and often death. But a new invention may mean an end to scenes like this.
We'll show you the story of a killer who almost went free. A key witness could not recall the crime until police called in a hypnotist. All this and more
tonight on
That's Incredible.
Kids, we used to love rolling down hills inside inner tubes.
When someone reminded stuntman Dar Robinson of it, he suddenly saw the makings of a brand new feat.
Devising and developing a new stunt is no easy task. Watch what happens. On a quiet hillside street in Los Angeles, Dar Robinson and his intrepid stunt crew begin by assembling what will become a 44-foot-long inner tube jumping ramp.
Okay, so then spin it around. Okay, lift up.
Now, 2 heavy equipment inner tubes are carefully stacked and then strapped together. 10 nylon straps to hold them firmly in place to create a unique new distance jumping vehicle. Naturally, there'll be a passenger, and this is where he'll sit.
Pretty straight.
Stuntman Steve Davis will ride inside the giant inner tube. Now, Steve is one of Dar's proteges, but neither he nor Dar know exactly what to expect during this never-before-attempted stunt. A safety net is now set up. It's designed to catch and stop the tube, which, of course, has no brakes or steering. The crew feels confident that the net is strong and secure enough to do the job. Now, a test of the net. It works, but it has to be raised up higher.
Steve's all set to take his first inner tube test ride. He's wearing a motorcycle helmet, as well as skateboard knee and elbow pads.
Okay, Steve. I should be testing. What? All right, let's go. All right, here we come.
The inaugural jump will be from a low test ramp.
Here he goes. Everything went fine, but potential problems are apparent.
The helmet is jerking on the straps in there. The helmet is? Yeah, they're coming off.
Now, another test jump. This time from a longer and higher ramp.
All right! Steer away, Gary! Steer away, steer away, steer away, steer away, steer away.
It's clear that guiding and controlling the giant tube isn't always easy. Even so, Steve is optimistic.
After going around, how do you feel?
I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know how many hours a guy could take of this a day. But...
In yet another test, the tube goes completely out of control.
For Dar and Steve, inner tube guidance is a challenging problem that they must solve.
Two cars provide a possible solution.
Car, but keep your heading. I don't want you steering off of it. Okay. Keep him so he's almost a little more that side of the rim. Okay. Now, Steve, you about ready?
Ready, Gary? Okay.
Now another crucial test. Steve uses a foam pad to help absorb the shock and compression of the jump.
Here he goes. Cars will try to guide the tube onto the takeoff ramp. It doesn't go as planned.
He's got to go. He's got to get over there. He's got to keep over it.
The tube veers off the ramp.
Hold on, he's going to fall out of it.
Steve hangs on and he's okay, but it could have been a serious accident.
Despite the mishap, Dar feels certain that the cars can guide the tube. He also outfits Steve with additional safety equipment.
Just tell me how tight you want that there.
How's that?
That's good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere when I'm in there.
Okay. Go ahead.
See y'all later. Oh, is it cozy?
Okay, Steve, I want you to sit in there, and I don't want to strap. Yeah, no, I want you to go down, slide down a little farther. The strap is right behind your helmet. All right. Okay, we're ready to bring the cars in.
Finally, this is it. The first ramp-to-ground inner tube distance jump ever attempted. No matter how far Steve goes, it will be an automatic world record.
It's a perfect approach. He's off. Again, the net holds, and Steve's okay.
He's a little sore from all the bouncing, but he's done something that no man has ever done before, and he set a world record.
How much? 19 feet 4 inches.
19 feet 4 inches, a record that stands alone and unchallenged.
20-foot limousine right there.
The limousine is actually 22 feet long.
Now, a daring attempt to break his own standing record. Here comes the tube. The approach looks good. He hits the ramp perfectly, but he doesn't make it. He can't clear the 22-foot car.
Here's the attempt in slow motion.
At the last moment, the tube veers to the side, and he can't make the distance.
Even so, Steve Davis remains the world's champion giant inner tube ramp-to-ground distance jumper.
19.4 still holds, sir.
19.4 still holds.
The story you're about to see is about a ghastly double murder. When the killer was brought to trial, the state didn't have enough evidence to convict him. The necessary facts were locked deep in one witness's subconscious, and it took a hypnotist to unlock them. The murders took place on June 24th, 1972 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. A police investigator made this film of the victims.
This is the woman who actually witnessed the murder. She is in silhouette to protect her identity. We will call her Laura.
I didn't want to remember it. To see two women killed in that manner for no reason, I guess my mind, I couldn't handle it. I just pushed it out.
It began in North Carolina's legislative building with a state senator who was an amateur hypnotist.
Major Washman from the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department called me one Sunday afternoon, told me that he had a case that was coming up the next week, and that they had never been able to find the murder weapon, and that this case was some 5 years old. And he had a witness coming in, and she would well, first he asked me if I would agree to hypnotize this subject. And he had been reading about some of the hypno-investigators out on the West Coast, and asked me if we thought that we could find possibly what had happened to the murder weapon.
Well, at first I believe the police thought that I was with him voluntarily, that I might have actually committed the murders until I was hypnotized. I was hypnotized at my own suggestion. It was something I'd read somewhere. And they took me back to that day, June 23rd. And they just told me, he asked me what kind of a day it was. And from then on, I just remembered everything.
An actress familiar with the details of the case plays Laura's role in this reenactment.
Together like this. And when I count to 5, you'll be asleep. It'll be that simple. It'll happen that quick, man.
He had me sitting there and he had me cross my hands, something like this. And then he just put me in a very relaxed state. And next thing I knew, I was hypnotized.
2, I want you to close your eyes very lightly. 3, I want you to tighten real tight. I use what you call rapid induction hypnosis. And it usually takes from 1 to 3 minutes. I want you to relax and go into a deeper and a deeper sleep now. You're going very deep.
The only question he asked me after he took me back to that day was, did I get a phone call? Then the rest, my subconscious just let loose.
Yeah. He called. He wanted some money. And I didn't have any money. He said he was coming over to get some money.
He was screaming about the money, and I told him I didn't have any money. My girlfriends, they didn't have but just a few dollars each. I had $800, but not there. I couldn't get it right away.
And I told him. He got mad.
Wilma, I said I need some money. And I need it now. I'm not kidding around.
No, I'm calling you.
Just shut up. Get over here. Lynn, get over here.
Oh, my God.
Get in here. Look, I'm not telling you anymore. I'm telling you, get in here. I'm not joking.
What's this? Come on, get out of here.
Shh, don't say anything. Shh, I won't let him hurt you. I won't let him hurt you.
What's he doing? What are you...
He shot a fire. I saw him. He had the gun, and he stood up by the edge of the bed, and he shot him in the head.
All of Laura's recollections under hypnosis were recorded by police investigators.
I remembered so many details that, only the police knew. And I remembered where he threw the murder weapon. Although when they got there, we went looking for it, they weren't able to recover it.
The post-hypnotic suggestion was that she would remember all of this and be able to testify to it accurately and truthfully in the courtroom.
When Joe woke me up and brought me out from the hypnosis, I could remember everything just as it had, happened right now in front of me. And it was terrifying. I could remember all the details. And they played the tape back for me. I was sick.
He repressed this unpleasant memory. Now, repression is a defense mechanism that we use to protect our ego when something happens that's so traumatic we cannot accept it.
When I was on the witness stand, after being hypnotized, I could remember everything like if it had just taken place. I could remember everything in sequence. I could remember so many things that my mind had just blocked out. Things that I can't remember again now.
That testimony was used in court, and of course, that was probably a landmark in the history of hypnosis, because that was the first case that the Supreme Court upheld.
The decision of the North Carolina Supreme Court made headlines all over the state. Judge Edwin S. Preston, Jr. comments.
In North Carolina, this was plowing some new ground, but Justice Lake stated our law, no matter how you can have your memory refreshed as a witness, the fact that it is refreshed is important, not the method. The fact that she's hypnotized, though, is made known to the jury for their consideration.
There's so many things that I could remember after being hypnotized that I put out of my mind again now, because I don't want to remember them. I don't want to remember seeing him shoot and kill 2 girls.
In 1977, aided by Laura's testimony, a court in North Carolina handed down a verdict of guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. The man she identified was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life imprisonment. And Laura, who had required hypnosis to remember the crime, is trying very hard to forget.
return,
We'll tell you about the bazooka termite, and you'll see its special secret weapon in action.
we'll meet the world's only team of high-diving mules and see them in action.
And you'll see a stuntman's attempt to pilot a boat through a floating fire tunnel.
The incredible juggler who opened our show by juggling underwater is back. Here he is juggling 3 bowling balls, James Marcel.
Termites eat wood. We all know that. But did you know that there is a special strain of termite that's armed with a secret weapon?
They're called bazooka termites, and to their natural enemies, they pose a very sticky problem. Dr. Clint Prestwich explains.
Most of the termites that people are familiar with are termites which bite. The soldiers have mandibles, that's a fancy name for just jaws, which are sharp and pincer-like. They will bite their opponents, and this presumably deters the opponents from eating the termites. That's the goal of being a termite soldier, is to keep your workers from getting eaten.
Dr. Prestwich has spent years studying termites here at the State University of New York at Stony Brook.
But not all termites do this. Some of them have some very unusual chemical means to defend their workers. One class is more or less a chemical bazooka. It fires out a stream of viscous stuff, which is essentially glue. And the objective of squirting out this viscous stream of stuff is to glue up the legs of the opponent. Once the opponent's legs are glued up, then it's no longer a threat. The way the glue-squirting termites manage to achieve this unusual defense is by having an entire head capsule filled with glue. They're sort of like living toothpaste tubes with muscles to push out the toothpaste. One of our main interests is figuring out how the termites make these unusual glues. The way we do this is by injecting the termites with labeled chemical compounds, and then a few hours or a day later, chopping off their head, squashing out the chemicals, and finding the labeled compounds in the heads.
The glue squirting mechanisms are called the nases. The nases, and the glue deposits behind them, are trimmed off and collected in a test tube for analysis.
Having cut the heads off, we extract the heads using an organic solvent, very similar to gasoline. We take this extract, which is a very sticky, gluey oil, and we do chemical analysis on it. We separate mixtures, we do fancy spectroscopic methods, things that nobody understands except chemists. And finally, we came up with a structure, an arrangement of atoms in space, which was unique. What we want to do here, Rick, is set up these ants and get them coming out through the tube. And then if we can get the termites jazzed up enough, we're going to lead them from the tube onto a bridge and onto a termite colony. We're going to lead the termites out of the termite colony onto the same bridge and hope for some sort of battle.
The red ant colony is the enemy in the war about to begin.
The termites are starting to come out. We blow on them. There. Just squirted them. When termites are irritated, i.e. blowing on them or tapping on the nest, termites will come rushing out to the defense of the colony, waving their little noses in the air and getting ready to squirt anything which is attacking them.
At the sight of the charging red ants, the soldier termites launch into battle. Termites will not attack any animal that does not attack them first. Since they do not have powerful jaws, they use their own glue-squirting weapons.
In fact, the termites are now following into the ant thing to try to keep the ants from coming out.
The glue is fired so fast that the red ants cannot elude it. An ant stuck in the adhesive is easy prey for any of the soldier termites. When a termite fires a salvo of his glue, it rapidly moves its head in the other direction so that it will not be trapped in its own web. By now, the battle has turned into a rout, and red ants are scrambling to escape. Some are finished off by the termites. Others are left to die, permanently stuck where they are. A few termites are also among the casualties, caught in the crossfire of their own secret weapon.
There's always a great need to find out new things. A new structure, a new way termites can make things, a new way they can't make compounds. Anything you can find out about the metabolism, the way a pest organism would break down or create some chemical gives you an advantage over that organism. It allows you to design a way to control that organism that would be unique and specific for that organism. In other words, if we want to control termites, you have to use the termite's own body to make something poisonous only to the termite. By figuring out how it makes its poisons, we might have a chance.
Stunt people don't always double for stars. Sometimes they like to be stars on their own. Tonight, you'll see such a man attempt the world's first and only speedboat ride through a floating fire tunnel.
Rio Raiders is a professional stuntman and about to face the most awesome challenge of his career.
Years as a movie stuntman have prepared Rio to handle the most dangerous assignments. He plans everything carefully and stays in top condition.
A stuntman's daily work is always extremely demanding.
Fire stunts present a special danger, but so far, Rio has never been seriously hurt.
Months went into planning this daring motorcycle ride through a fire tunnel.
An experienced professional, Rio will attempt a stunt that no one has ever done before, and the most dangerous of his career. This lightweight speedboat will be part of the stunt.
He'll drive it through a floating fire tunnel now under construction. Since it's the first one of its kind, building the 200-foot tunnel is difficult and demanding.
Now the crew begins dousing the structure with kerosene. The tunnel will be completely saturated. Friends and family are there for support, but Rio, as always, must face the danger alone. We'll show you Rio Raiders' first attempt at the floating fire tunnel when we continue.
And now let's return to witness Rio Raiders attempt to pilot a speedboat through a floating tunnel of fire. Rio is about to test his years of training and his courage.
The tunnel is set afire. Now Rio Raiders must face the dangerous challenge he's set for himself.
Rio will try to make 2 passes through the tunnel before it disintegrates and collapses. Here he goes.
He's in the tunnel. Now he must withstand temperatures in excess of 300 degrees.
He made it. As he circles around for the second pass, the floating tunnel is constantly changing position. The approach is crucial.
Here's his second run in slow motion. Inside, flames send the temperature soaring.
He did it! He completed the 2 passes he planned.
Unexpectedly, Rio decides to risk a third run through the tunnel.
Now the danger is greatly increased. The tunnel could collapse any moment.
He's somewhere inside the tunnel, but can't be spotted through the wall of fire. He's literally racing the flames to the end of the tunnel.
He made it! The third run was considered impossible, but somehow Rio Raiders knew he could do it. The tunnel is a raging inferno, and Rio made it through with only moments to spare.
Rio Raiders is the first man to ever challenge and conquer a floating fire tunnel.
And now it's time for another exhibit of the juggling wizardry of James Marcel. James will attempt to juggle a machete, a meat cleaver, and a sickle.
Americans break 2 million arms, legs, and other bones every year. If you're young or if you're lucky, the parts will knit back together and heal in time. But unfortunately, in 100,000 cases a year, these bones don't heal properly. Now, doctors call this a non-union break.
The Food and Drug Administration has recently given its approval to this new surgical procedure. Doctors drill a small window in the bone, right at the non-union break. A tiny coil is connected inside and connected to a power pack that's implanted in a nearby muscle. With this device, doctors can actually stimulate bone growth. Dr. Steve Garfin explains.
The incidence of non-union or not healing of bones is estimated at an average to be approximately 5%, though some individual bones have an incidence of 25%. Guy Ricciarduli is a 24-year-old male football player at the University of San Diego.
In September 1979, we were playing Pomona College. In the second half, I tried to make a tackle, and I extended my arm. The kid was pretty strong, and he broke the radial shaft of my arm. So I went to the sideline. I thought it was just a broken arm, probably, and I'd get a cast on and go home. We went to the hospital, and it turned out that I had to spend the night in the hospital.
At that time, he was internally fixed by his physician, Dr. William Kern of San Diego, with a plate. And you can barely see the fracture, and it seemed to be fixed very well. Unfortunately, at 7 months, the films look like this, which is, in fact, indications that this is developing into a non-union.
He suggested another surgery, and this osteostem was a relatively new technique, which uses electrical stimulation to knit a non-union. So I said, sure, let's go for it. I wanted to play football again, and we were running out of time.
The theory of electrical healing of bone began when observers realized that when bone fractured, it produced an electronegative charge. This is the osteostim unit. The battery pack produces a very low voltage, low amperage current that is not harmful. This is the positive electrode that helps direct the current, and this longer one is where the negative charge comes out. Our original plan was to merely put an electrical unit, the osteostimulator, at the fracture site. However, when we opened the forearm and got down to the plate, we found the plate was loose. Therefore, we had to change the plate.
After they took that out and put the other plate in, they put it on the inside of the arm, and the electric coil was placed right in there, and a little wire ran up, and they implanted the battery power pack right up here on the top of my arm. And it progressively got better and better, and August came around, football season was here again, and I was given the clearance to play.
Not only was Guy able to play his linebacker position, he led his team with the most tackles and assists. He was also named an All-American.
Maxine Scanlon is a 63-year-old lady who was hit by a car while she was walking.
I had eight fractures in 2 legs. The one leg healed, the other leg didn't. That break was like about 1 inch below the knee, both bones completely. They kept changing the cast and everything. And between 8 and 9 months, it still would not heal. When I first heard about the instrument, I did really think about the movie, The Bionic Woman. I was depressed when they did say I had to have this operation because I kept thinking that the pain would still be worse. The pain was so intense, I could not even stand on my feet, let alone put my weight on them.
Maxine underwent the implant surgery in San Diego, California.
This procedure is graphic but fascinating, so we've recorded an actual operation. The patient is under general anesthetic.
The leg has been encased in a sterilized plastic sheet, and an incision is made directly over the non-union in the bone.
Gently, muscles and tendons are pushed aside to reveal the bone.
Fragments from the original break are removed.
A high-speed drill makes a small window in the bone to hold the electrode implant.
Again, the area is cleared of all debris.
Now, the next step takes place on the opposite side of the leg.
A power source for the electrode will be placed here.
The muscles are not cut. The surgeon delicately pries them apart, creating a pocket in the muscle to hold the power pack.
Now the surgeon creates a pathway so the power pack and electrode can be connected.
The plastic sheath will protect the electrode and connecting wires when they're guided through the pathway.
Everything is ready for the implants. The tiny electrode is carefully passed through the sheath.
When the electrodes and connecting wires are in the correct position, the plastic sheath is removed.
The electrode's charge must be exact and is checked one last time. The power pack tucks into the muscle pocket.
The electrode is carefully wrapped around this tool to form a coil. The coil fits exactly into the tiny window of the bone. The power pack gets one more check.
For Maxine Scanlon, the operation was a complete success.
I got a big surprise. After they did the operation and they put the implant in, I did not have no pain. To me, it is a miracle because 14 weeks after the operation, they told me and showed me the x-rays, it was completely healed. And they cut the cast off, and I walked out of the hospital on crutches.
Even though we've been talking about the stimulation of bone by electricity and the good results obtaining bone union, in fact, the results are of a healing rate of 85 to 90%. This is not a system that should be used in every fracture. It certainly has not been proven 100% in acute fractures and is proving itself in non-unions.
Like I say, 14 weeks, I was back walking again. The battery still is in my leg, but I'm fine.
What has 4 legs, is very stubborn, and jumps 30 feet into a tank of water? Why, a high-diving mule, of course. And if you've never seen one before, well, you're in for a first.
A perfectly executed dive is a thing of beauty, even when performed by a mule.
This site is quite common in McIntosh, Florida, home of the All-American Aqua Mules.
Since 1957, the Aqua Mules have wintered here at Rivers Ranch. They deserve a rest after their latest whirlwind tour of state and county fairs.
I'm Johnny Rivers, and over the past 20 years, I've collected quite a little bunch of mules here. Some of them are getting quite old now. And the reason we keep these mules around and that they're so old is because they're trained to high dive. They're the only diving mules ever trained in the history of the universe. And if you think that's a little brag, you're about right. Training a mule is not much different than training other animals, except that they are a little smarter, they catch on a lot quicker. The only way to get them to do what you want is to make them think that they're doing what they want. If they think that they're doing exactly what they want to do, they'll go right ahead and do what you want to do. It's a little mule psychology that's a little tough to exercise sometimes. Showtime. Well, they've been standing here tied up for a while, and they know what's coming, so now we're going to get ready and go. Come on, mules, time to go.
Johnny feels that mules make much better divers than horses. Mules will climb higher, and they don't panic.
Aqua Mules undergo at least 2 years of intensive training.
The diving platform is 30 feet high, and the tank is only 6 feet deep.
As a youngster, I saw Doc Carver's high diving horses at a park. I always wanted a diving horse. A diving horse takes up 8 foot of water. They're a lot bigger, a lot harder to haul around, eat a lot more. And no one ever had a mule.
Our first diver couldn't wait to get atop the high dive platform. She checks the tank below, points her hooves, and shoves off. A perfect dive. Her championship form deserves an instant replay in slow motion.
I get asked all the time about how dangerous it is to train these mules or to have these mules dive into the water. Mostly the danger comes when they'll slip. When it rains or sprinkles and the ramp gets a little wet, it does get slippery. But they are mules and they're like goats and they're used to compensating for any mislip like that.
One Shetland pony is part of the act. She has a real monkey on her back. Here they go. Another perfect dive.
When we're on the road, of course, it's a whole different story. Or that's when they perform and they know they're going out to perform. They're all business at that time. Once they make their dive and come up out of the water, then they expect a little reward and a little playtime, and we give it to them.
And now the most dangerous feat ever attempted by a high diving mule. She'll fearlessly dive through a ring of fire.
Up she goes. She looks all around and carefully gauges her trajectory.
Now the jump. Well done.
Here it is again in slow motion. Note the grace and form.
I can't say enough good about them. Although a lot of people think they're mean and ornery and contrary, I fell in love with them many years ago, and we've still got that going for us. And I guess we will have till we both pass on.
Until that day, Johnny's high diving mules are sure to go on performing. In a moment, a new invention that may eliminate the tragedy of gas tank explosions and save many, many lives.
You've all seen the signs on gas tankers that say caution flammable. And you've seen the frequent reports of destruction and even death that results when one of those tankers explodes.
Well, a company up in Canada has a new invention that may mean an end to all gas tank explosions like this one.
It was shortly after 2 in the afternoon when the Missouri Pacific freight train jumped the rails on the outskirts of Houston. 18 cars piled up. Many of them carried dangerous chemicals, and several of them exploded. Trying to keep another tank from exploding. Fire Chief Jim Honey was unable to find out what was in the burning car.
They think it's ethyl chloride on fire, and we're going to have to let it burn down. There's nothing we've got here to put that out.
Firemen are not afraid to fight a fire, but they can't fight an explosion. More and more people are becoming conscious of the problems of fire and explosion, particularly when you pick up a newspaper and every day there's another tragedy. And we feel very badly at times here because many of the things we read about, we know we could prevent.
They could be prevented with something called ExploSafe, a new invention that's manufactured here in Toronto, Canada. Al Caven explains.
The company spent the last 5.5 years developing what we think is one of the most exciting products that's come along in a long time. It's a product that deals with safety in that it suppresses explosions in containers that carry hazardous gases and liquids. The process starts off with what looks like a simple material. It almost looks like a household foil, but it's a little thicker and it does have special alloys added to it. The first machine that the foil goes into is called a slitter. And the purpose of that machine is to put the notches in the material so that we can then take it to an expander, which will then take that material and expand it into the shape and width that we want for the final product. And what you end up with, in effect, is a honeycomb matrix of material. So when you put it into a container, in effect, you have all this metal in there. What this does is rapidly radiate heat through the container in the event that it is in a fire or is hit by ballistics. And that reduces the pressure buildup, and as a result, you will not get an explosion in the container. There's enormous destructive forces in explosion. 1 gallon of gasoline is equal to 22 sticks of dynamite. So if you've got 5 gallons of gas, you are going to have a severe explosion.
This is a test of Explosafe, conducted by the British Armed Forces. The drums are filled with gasoline, diesel fuel, and acetone. The yellow drums are Explosafe protected. The red drums are not. The drums have been placed in fuel-filled trays to generate maximum heat and to match the conditions of a potential disaster.
The fuel is lit. It's now a matter of seconds before at least some of the cans will blow up.
The unprotected diesel can explodes first. The Explosafe cans all stay intact.
Now another test, this time using bullets. The unprotected can explodes immediately.
The fuel in the Explosafe can was ignited, but there was no explosion. It burns off safely.
This is not a product that we would bring to market until we knew it worked 100% of the time. It's a passive product. You put it in the container, and it stays there for the life of the container. The material appears to be quite voluminous in that it takes up the whole inside of the container. But in fact, it displaces less than 1% of the volume of the container.
As the meshed Explosafe material is lowered into this demonstration container, the level of the liquid barely rises.
The product also does eliminate the slosh problem that you have in many of the large vehicles where going around a curve, a vehicle will have an enormous slosh. Sometimes we'll put the vehicle out of control. We can certainly help reduce that problem very, very significantly. For the safety aspect of it, it can be justified in almost any situation, whether it's a portable gas can or an aircraft tank, military vehicle. We believe this product, for instance, would have been very, very useful in Vietnam, where many of the helicopters were shot out of the air with just bullet fire.
When the unprotected gas tank is struck by a bullet, the jet fuel vapor instantly explodes and the tank disintegrates. The tank equipped with Explosafe remains intact. The bullet passes safely through it.
There's also the situation where a vehicle may be surrounded by fire and then explode. We could eliminate that situation. You still have the fire, but you wouldn't have the horrendous destruction that occurs when the explosion takes place.
We've simulated a rollover auto accident. We've equipped the car with an Explosafe fuel tank. This tank will completely eliminate the possibility of any blast or any explosion from the fuel within. In a normal accident, a normal tank would, within very few seconds or possibly a minute, erupt and explode into a horrendous explosion. With the Explosafe foil internally, this works as a heat sink, and it keeps it cool, and it completely eliminates the fact of an explosion. Filling the tank now, you'll notice it is overflowing, which is exactly what we want to simulate, which would happen in a rollover of a vehicle.
The gasoline will be used as a fuse to safely set the car ablaze. Firemen are ready to douse the flames. Now the gasoline fuse is ignited. It's headed right for the tank.
If you'll notice, the flame is engulfing the tank. This stage of the just about this stage, with a rupture of any kind in the tank, you would have an ultimate explosion, making the exit of any people inside quite dangerous.
If the mannequin were a person, he would still be alive. The car tank did not explode and spread the flames, and firemen have little trouble putting the blaze out.
The tank is still super hot. The gas is still vapors. But the explosive foil in the tank has kept this unit cooler and totally eliminated the threat of an explosion.
The passenger area remained safe. The flames did not reach it. Now a second test using a tank not equipped with explosive.
The tank has been filled again with 15 gallons of fuel.
Here it goes. Quickly, the tank catches fire. Within a few moments, the gas tank is ready to explode.
In a few more seconds, the car becomes an inferno, completely engulfed in flames. If there were people inside, there would have been little chance for escape.
The explosive devices have just been perfected, but already the Air Force is having them installed in many of their vehicles and fuel storage facilities.
Explosive devices can now be installed in automobile gas tanks. And if you have to store gasoline, you'll be able to do so safely in an explosive gas can.
All of which points to a safer and saner future.
Throughout tonight's show, you've seen James Marcel demonstrate his juggling talents. Now this feat will be the most difficult and dangerous, juggling 3 chainsaws.
Our time is just about gone, but we do want to thank our guests. James Marcel.
If you have an idea, suggestion, or comment, we'd appreciate it. And please write us at Post Office Box 25989, Los Angeles, California, zip code 90025, and please include your phone number.
On upcoming shows, here's just some of what you'll be seeing.
This horse was nearsighted. He kept bumping into things and hurting himself. His trainers came up with the obvious solution. They had him fitted for contact lenses.
Doctors have found a miraculous new substance that can help to treat arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and many other diseases. It's called oxygen.
Police were stymied in their search for a body. They knew it was somewhere, but it took the powers of a psychic to locate it for them.
We've received hundreds of letters from viewers who were fascinated by the story we ran on the Zero Factor. That was a story about the amazing chain of coincidences involving the lives of past presidents.
Typical of the mail was this letter from Starla Raquel Cash, who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. It says, I'm 26 years old, and I'm a firm believer in the phrase, history shall repeat itself. However, in all my years of school, never once did anyone give this amazing set of similarities as an example. What I find incredible is why something so interesting and captivating could be left out of a student's education. For it is stories like these that arouse an interest in students to investigate and learn. Whoever said television could not be educational must surely have missed your program, and that's incredible.
Thank you for your letter, Starla. And we're sending you a That's Incredible jacket, and to share with your friends, a whole box of That's Incredible books.
And thanks to you all for joining us here on
That's Incredible.
Good night.
This is Joan London, a boutique which sells Western wear for your dog, and one man's fight against organized crime tomorrow on Good Morning America.
Tomorrow night, Three's company, but Four's a hilarious crowd when Ralph Furley moves in with Jack, Cindy, and Janet after they get him fired. Followed by hilarity in the courtroom when Henry thinks a fellow juror wants a romantic rendezvous on Too Close for Comfort. Stay tuned now for the return of Dynasty, followed by Foul Play.